Hey, it's another week, another recipe, and I have found a handwritten recipe from the 1940s for a rye bread that is simply amazing and so easy. Come join me. Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Courtney Morris, and I cook history's forgotten recipes out of random cookbooks I find, and sometimes websites, and sometimes submissions from you, which are always welcome. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy this recipe. If you're new here, I hope you stick around. Hope you join the community, and if you're back for more, welcome again. It's good to see you. Let's get started. First things first, if you hear crashing or banging going on in the background, that's because my kids have been put to the task of gutting the upstairs. Upstairs is one big bonus room, and it's a disaster after Christmas and New Year's. So that's what that is if you happen to hear a demolition crew in the back. Anyways, today's exciting because I cleaned out my freezer and found a corned beef that's still good, which means Reuben sandwiches, which means I get to make rye bread. So I had a rye bread recipe I wanted to try. It was a recipe from the Boston Cooking School, but I could not for the life of me source graham flour in time for this video. I had to order it. I don't know why I can't find it up here. It's beyond me. So I found a better one though from the 1940s, somebody's grandmother's handwritten recipe. Helen Fern from the Lazy Gastronome blog posted her grandma's recipe, and I almost like these recipes better because it makes them real, and according to Helen, it's really good. So we're gonna make that, and I'm gonna see how this rye bread turns out. Okay, let's get this party started here. So we need to proof our yeast first, which is something I do anyways, just to make sure my yeast isn't dead, but this one actually calls for it. So it's 1 package of yeast, and then teaspoon of sugar for growth. And the entire recipe says 2 cups of water, but I'm gonna put a half a cup of warm water in with my yeast. Okay, and then I'm just going to give that a little stir around. And what I like to do for proofing, especially when it calls for just the package of yeast, it's a very small amount of yeast, is I like to preheat my oven and just have it at the warm setting. But because I'm doing that, the hot air from the vent on, I think it's my right side, emit warm air. And I'll just stick this on top of the vent because the vent can still do its thing. It's a gas stove, but it will help proof this because it'll warm it up. Okay, so now it says to heat the remaining cups of water. My water is warm enough, but I'm gonna have to melt lard in it, so I might warm it up a little bit more. That's better. It's not boiling and it's not like hot, but it's definitely warm enough to where if I could wash dishes and they were greasy, it would take care of it. So one thing I love about handwritten recipes are the notes. And one of the notes on here was lard or butter, and in parentheses, must be lard. So you can tell where her preference lay. Half a cup of lard. And anymore, lard tends to be the cheaper oil option at the store lately, which if you watched any of my videos, I love this stuff. It is so versatile. And you're supposed to put it in with your water. I'm gonna need a different spatula. Get it all out of there. No need to waste in this day and age, right? And now it says to heat it until it's melted in the water. So I might need to put this back in the microwave. I'm assuming you do this just for the ease of mixing things together and doing what I do and explode my butter or lard in the microwave at any given moment. This definitely helps to keep a clean microwave. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit for a minute and finish dissolving. There's only a few pieces left that need it. And now we need to sift our 2 flours together. And so she's using 4 cups of flour, noted all-purpose, and 1 cup of rye flour. And I found my rye flour in the bulk section at my supermarket, and I don't know if there's any differences between rye flours. All right, so 1 cup of rye flour and 4 cups of all-purpose flour. We're going to mush those around so it is evenly distributed. I feel like I have flour everywhere. Oh, I just put more on me. I should change this channel name to like the messiest cook in the world. Add salt and caraway seed. Now, I don't think you have to add seeds to your rye bread. I think that is optional. I do know that it does give the traditional flavor of a rye bread that you'd be looking for, and caraway and fennel were the 2 traditional seeds put in. I have fennel. I didn't remember to get caraway, but fennel is a completely viable option. So we need 3 tablespoons of fennel, a tablespoon of salt, and a half cup of evaporated milk. And we're just gonna mix this gently, and it's starting to smell like a Jewish deli in here. I don't know how mixing gently works because there's not enough liquid to mix anything. But now we need to add our water and lard mixture. And this is where your hands come in. You can do this in a mixer, I am very certain. But these old recipes, you didn't have it, and you know what? Your hands are I'm messy. Your hands are the best tools for bread making. Okay, so we're just gonna work that around and get all the loose flour that we can, work it into a bowl here. It doesn't say to add any excess flour or water in the bowl. Some recipes do, but this picks up pretty much everything. So now I've just got this rough, coarse ball that smells kind of good. I've also got a mess in front of me, so, well, that's part of it. Now is the fun part. If you have a mixer, use your mixer guidelines. If you don't, it's 7 to 10 minutes hand kneaded. And do not be afraid to manhandle it. This is how the gluten in the wheat flour activates and makes things poofy and fluffy and lovely. Otherwise, you end up with rock bread. Okay, I've only got a couple more minutes left on this, and you can tell it is nicely soft and smooth. And in about a minute, I'll show you how to know when it's done. Now, if you don't want to do this by hand, you can use a mixer. If you're using a KitchenAid, put it on speed 2 for about 2 minutes. That's the equivalent of a 10-minute knead. So if you're not using a KitchenAid, look up what your manufacturer's suggestions are, because KitchenAid in particular, I know, has specific times that equal hand knead time. That is finished. It's it's really soft. It's a soft dough. I've never worked with rye flour before. You can check to see if you manhandled it enough, where you can do a little poke test. And if you just gently poke it, your crater from your finger should pop back up and not leave an indentation. So you will still see your fingerprint, but it won't look like a belly button. Okay, now we put this in an oiled bowl, and we're gonna let it double in size. And like I said, I like to preheat my oven to just warm, and then I turn it off, stick my bread dough in there, and I just let it go until it doubles. So keep in mind, it tends to go faster in there than in a cooler area, so just keep an eye on that, because a 30-minute rise time might turn into a 15-minute rise time. So just beware that it does go faster in a warmer environment. Okay, I have oiled the inside of my bowl. Yes, I'm putting plastic in the oven. It's only on warm. It's not going to do anything. And then I'm team saran wrap for putting the covering on. I feel like I get a better rise and I retain more moisture because there is no evaporation through the fibers of a towel. But you do whatever you want to do. I like plastic wrap for this. Except for Kirkland brand. Costco, I hate this stuff. Every single time you try to get it to pull up, you get a little bit and then it just tears off into these shreds. And this isn't just this one. This is the second one I've had that has done it, and so I am a little over it. But I still have most of it left, and I don't want to waste it, but I am about ready to just chuck it off my balcony. But for the sake of not wasting as much as I am right now trying to get a full sheet out of it, so this says just let it double. I'm going to put it in for about 20 minutes and see how it goes. If it needs a little bit more, then I'll do more. But I'm just going to eyeball it. This came out nice and doubled, and we're going to punch it back down. Get any air bubbles out. Okay, and then I'm just going to roll the bottom under to create a little bowl. I love bread that looks like this in those little round bowls. I think one of the reasons I like sourdough so much is because it's just cute. That has risen nicely. It's got great elasticity. And now it says to cover with a damp cloth and let rise in a warm place for about an hour, or in this case, probably about another 25 minutes, and it will double again. So damp cloth wrung out to where I can't get any more water out of it. And surprisingly, I found an old dish towel that actually still soaked up water. Do any of you guys have this problem, or is this just me? It seems like after like a month or so of using like brand new washcloths and dish towels, they become waterproof and I can't soak up anything. I don't use dryer sheets in my towels or fabric softener, and I don't think it's a laundry detergent because my clothes get wet and they soak up water, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Do you guys have this problem too? Please tell me you do. I have preheated my oven again to 170. I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna stick this in here and I will be back as soon as it's time to cook it. Okay, I don't know if you can see the difference here, but this is now doubled in size, and I am going to stick it back into my other oven, which isn't very warm at the moment, so I can get my oven up to temperature to 350. All right, this is finished. It is hollow on the bottom. I rubbed butter all over it like it said. Now, it only took 40 minutes, not 60, like the recipe said. So I guess just keep an eye on it. It smells like a Jewish deli. It smells like I need my corned beef done right now. Now, it did get a little flat. It was puffed up more, but I had a really important phone call to take right at the end of proofing. And so it got to proof a little longer than it should have. So if you overproof it, it does kind of squash it a little bit. Nonetheless, we're going to eat it. And if it doesn't make great big sandwiches, I'm going to just use it in soup. I also, just for decoration, cut slits in the top. It didn't say to, but it's just personal preference. So it is smelling good. Still a little warm yet, but you know, oh, that's lovely. Oh, that smells good. It's a light rye. This is definitely light. Like, it's not one of those really robust, that's all you taste is caraway seeds. The crumb, because it's flat, is a little bit mushed. Plus, I'm also cutting into this warm, so this part might look a little different than this part, because by the time I get here, it's gonna be cool. But I can't help it. It's warm bread right out of the oven. It's just, I can't help it. All right, that is fluffy, light, wonderful. Delicious. Oh man, Helen, thank you so much for posting this on your blog. Thank you so much for getting your grandmother's recipe out there. This is really good. And this is great for people who don't like a heavy rye flavor. I do know a few people who just don't like that, like in your face, that's all you taste in your sandwich kind of rye. This is a very mild but lovely flavor, and it's so puffy. It's so good. We're gonna try it with some butter. I'm so happy. I highly, 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 highly recommend doing this. Don't overproof it, but even with it a little overproofed, it's still fantastic. As usual, I will link the recipe in the description below so you can try this out. Remember, if you do it in a mixer, check your mixer instructions on how long to do it, because it's not going to be as long as hand kneading. And if you're here with me to the end, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed this immensely. The process of bread making is always fun for me, but the eating it is always the best part. If you haven't already, I hope you join the community by hitting the subscribe button, like the video if you enjoyed it, and send me a comment. Do you make rye bread? Do you have any other rye bread recipes? I'd love to know. I would love to try them out, because this is the first one I've ever done with rye flour, and I am just tickled that this turned out so well. And if anybody has a good recipe for pumpernickel, I have always wanted to try that too. So maybe we'll look at one of those recipes too. If you send me one, I will definitely do it. Anyways, thank you for being here once again, and if you need something else to watch to keep you busy until the next time I see you, go ahead and click this video right here. It was a great one, and I will see you next time. All right, bye.